Welcome to Screen Events. As applications get more and more complex, the need to perform specific actions at very specific moments of the application lifecycle becomes more relevant. In this session, we will go over available screen events and how they work together to form what is called the screen lifecycle. As end users interact with the application screens, events are triggered internally at runtime. All this happens on the client side, and the server is only needed to query the database or execute server-side code. The runtime triggers these built-in events and allow us to react to a specific change in the app by handling it with some logic. Let's start with a simple scenario. Here, we are entering a screen which triggers the initialize event. Immediately, the aggregates and data actions that are defined at the screen level are triggered. While these execute in the background and we wait for a response from the server, the DOM starts to load. This happens quite fast. Upon completion, the ready event triggers and the screen starts to render. When the screen is completely rendered, it triggers the render event. At this point, the screen and its widgets are visible to the end user. When an aggregate returns its result, it triggers an after-fetch event. Since data is now available, the screen updates automatically. As the screen reacts to data changes and is re-rendered, the render event triggers again. As the second aggregate completes, the same thing will happen. The after-fetch event triggers, the screen updates, and the render event of the screen triggers again. Notice that the render event is the only one being triggered multiple times. The after-fetch event appears twice in this diagram, but it happens once per aggregate. What happens as the user navigates between screens? Suppose that the user clicks on some element inside the current screen, which will navigate to a destination screen. In the background, the initialize event of the destination screen triggers. The aggregates and data actions defined at the destination screen level also trigger. The destination screen DOM starts to load. Eventually, when it is ready, it triggers the ready event. This is followed by the destination screen rendering, which triggers the render event. At this point, the screen transition is initiated. Only at this point, the end user will see the destination screen. Up until now, all work happened behind the scenes. When the transition is complete, the onDestroy event of the old screen triggers. Then, as each aggregate returns a response, the after-fetch event of the aggregate triggers, as well as the render event of the screen with the new data, just like in the previous scenario. So far, we've discussed the lifecycle and when each event is triggered during this lifecycle. Let's now see some common use cases for each one of these events. Regarding the onInitialize, since at this point the DOM is not yet available, the main use cases hinge on setting defaults for variables in the screen that will be shown to the user or passed to other blocks. Another use case is to redirect the user to another screen based on a given set of conditions, such as the user is not authenticated. As for the ready event, at this point the DOM is already available, although the screen is not yet visible to the end user. Adding JavaScript listeners to elements that are part of the DOM is a good use case. Also, we can use it to set the focus on one particular widget. As the screen renders, the render event triggers. Since this event is also triggered whenever anything on the screen changes, this event may be useful to react to changes in data. The destroy event is one of those that is only needed for very specific use cases, such as removing JavaScript listeners or to clean the DOM that was previously changed in the ready event. Finally, the after-fetch event is quite useful in scenarios where aggregates depend on each other, such as country and states. The onAfterFetch event handler of the first aggregate can be used to refresh the query of the second aggregate. Also, if we need to do some logic over the result, such as checking if it is empty, the after-fetch event is a good place for that.